Hi, this is me again, of course. I told you I would come back with a male version haircut. Gave him a little stash. So this is the closest mannequin that I have that I would say that is a guy's haircut. It's actually also a lot of female hair clients that I do have, but we're going to make this a man's haircut. So a lot of this stuff is the guys usually, they've got it going back around their ears and that's all grown out, which is now covering their ears. And they're getting a little bit of length back here. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So we're going to readjust this haircut just to buy him a little more time before he gets to come back in here and see me, or your kids as well. For some of y'all might just be cutting the bottom of their hair right here, which is totally fine. But again, you'll need a comb and a pair of scissors. Whether they're sewing scissors or craft scissors, they need to be sharp. And the other is, right now his hair is wet, so I'm actually gonna wet it a little more. It's not wet, it's dry. I'm gonna wet it. And if they're straight out of the shower, that would be even better. But for right now, I'm gonna use a water bottle. And not everybody has a water bottle at home, but if you do, that works well too. But straight out of the shower, dipping their head in the sink, just enough to get their hair wet is good. So you can have him sitting in a chair that is tall enough for you to stand above him. You don't want him so low that you can't, reach the bottom of his neck. He's too low. So a dining room chair would be a perfect chair as long as the back is low enough and not hitting him at his neckline. That's going to keep you from shaping this up correctly. So what I'll do is, being that this is a profile, I'm going to turn him a little more, maybe even a little more, just so you could see the back. And this is what we'll start with first, so that he can get groomed enough for going to work. Even if y'all are just around the house and you're working at home from the house, everybody feels a lot better when they get their hair cleaned up. So he'll want to tilt his head down. So basically it's chin down, not just tilting your head down. That way the back of his neck stays straight and flat. And so what you could do first is just kind of comb it towards his face this way on both sides. And you might have clips at home. If they look like this, any of these will work. Or if you're lucky enough to have, your daughter has some barrettes, or your wife, you could use these as well. These are really good ones, but if not, a lot of times we could use the ear, because if it's that long, you could wrap that around his ear, which mannequins' ears don't stick out, so I'm gonna go for the clip. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. You just want a little bit of the hair out of the way. And so that if you look under his hair, he's going to have a hairline. And the thickest part of that is basically his natural hairline. A lot of time, men and women, when they have shorter hair, they have hair growing down on the sides of their nape of their neck. That part you can leave alone until this line is drawn with scissors to give you a good straight cut. So I'm going to put my finger here just to hold some hair down and cut below the hairline. And if he needs to feel more comfortable, you can give him a mirror, or you can put him in the bathroom where you can sit in front of a mirror and cut his hair. That way you too can look in the mirror and turn him sideways. My favorite chairs of all to cut hair in are office chairs with rollers on them. So if you have that, that's basically the best chair to be in, because then he can swivel. You can swivel him back and forth and be able to look at him from his profile. So again, I'm not being really perfect with this, but I'm getting a line started. So of course his neck's gonna be wet, hair's gonna be stuck to him. A lot of y'all, almost everybody I know, they don't own a hair cape at home. So even just putting a towel around his neck to keep the hair off of him and put a clip in the front would be a good idea. So I'm actually gonna do that just so that y'all can see how it's done. And then that way, even if he has a t-shirt on, that right there will help and give you an idea, another marker to start with. So right now we've cut a good guideline, and on this side it looks like it might need a little more work. So it's straight. So it's straight all the way around. And some guys end up with a lot of curlier hair right here. Some of it's gray and wiry. For kids, it's the same. It gets a little wavy around the edges, especially if they're teens. It's chemistry and their hormones are all changing that. Or even if they're little, just be careful around all those sides. So again, we're still just taking another big chunk and apart. It doesn't have to be perfect. Move the rest of the hair out of the way. So now you're able to see, you already have a real good line. So now you've combed down some more hair. Now you see the hair that's longer than the rest that we just cut. So that's basically where you want to hold it. And instead of cutting straight across, you want to cut into the hair like this, real slow. That way you're able to get, I don't know, get a different angle here. That way you're able to get the rest of the hair even with the length that you just cut. And then we're going to get him to turn his head up and turn him sideways. Don't choke him. And get another section of hair. Again, making sure it's even and cut into it. I know my hand is probably in the way. It's the only way to do this angle. So when his hair wants to flip out a little bit, some of it might be because it's wet or he has wave or curl. So we're just going to wet it and comb it straight down again. So here's the trickier part for a lot of people when it comes to around their ears. Get it nice and wet. And I didn't wet him all the way down because I wanted to show y'all with a water bottle how you can do it if you had one, or a lot of times old school, get a cup and dip your comb in the cup of water for people that didn't have one, or better yet, the best and fastest way is right out of the shower or dip their head in the sink. So now at this angle, what we're doing is we're going to just kind of move some hair out of the way. So we're going to comb it all forward. And it doesn't matter right now if he parts it on the right or the left. We're just mainly getting around the perimeter, should I say, around his head. So we're wanting kind of this hair to kind of blend with this. And so to get that done, we're going to move some more of this out of the way. And of course it's going to be short, so it feels like it might fall. If you do happen to have one of these, you could put it there to move it out of the way. Or if his hair is too short, You could also use a little bit of a cream in your styling products for our hair, for straightening, or a little bit of conditioner, something that will help you hold his hair down, but be able to wipe through his hair with a comb and cut it without having sticky products like a gel or a wax. A good conditioner, a pea size, just enough to help you give some hold to the hair to keep it out of the way if you don't have clips. So again, we've got a part. And just move it all out of his face. So now we're working on the ear to back here. So move hair out of the way, comb some down. And I think my angle, what you'll want to do is comb it forward towards his ear. And you'll see all that hair there. That's what we're going to take off, because what we're trying to do is give him an angle in his haircut right here so he doesn't have the length back here anymore to make it look like he has a mullet. So we're going to pick up some more hair and pick it up and stay with that guideline just like we did with the back of the hair. Anything that's longer than what we just cut, that's what you want to take off once you get a good line going. And it looks like I might be cutting straight across, but I'm not. I'm actually nipping into it at an angle so that there's not a harsh line to his hair. And I'm leaving it a little longer than what I normally would cut, but I've already cut a whole lot of it off, because you can always cut a little more after you get a little more comfortable with it, rather than cutting so much at one time. So see now when you brush from the back to the front, there's more of a line right here on his neckline. And he might have this little point there, but that's okay because we're not done yet. But at least we've got an angle on his neckline to separate the fact that he's got hair back here and it's not real long. So that even if he brushed it back this way, that still gives that angle and he has some texture and length back here without making it look like he has a mullet. And this same haircut can be done even if your hair's long enough to pick up and you have hair sticking up above your finger and your fingers are flat to their scalp. And he's grown out, say that much, and he wants it that short, then that's basically, it's almost the same procedure as far as the way you hold it and the angle you cut it. So we're going to continue to go forward. A little at a time to where it looks more in a straight line with an angle. And now that we're going to be right by his ears, we're going to hold this straight down. And some guys like it right at the tip of their ear, up here. We're not going to worry about that part right now. We're going to cut it to about right there first. That way you'll feel more comfortable after doing it and you'll see that the majority of that little point is gone. And when you pull it down, you're going to have that much hair to cut off. And this part, you can just use the line we started with back here to help guide you on the front over his ears. I know the angle of the video, trying to move my hand enough so that you could see what I'm taking off. And again, I'm nipping at it. keep cutting kind of straight across till you feel like see, we're trying to get to that line. Now, if you want to go shorter, then we just pull it back out like we were again and cut it up a little shorter, which is what we'll do. And he can tilt his head. This obviously being on a mannequin, he can't tilt his head to the right, so we're actually maneuvering his neck that way. So you don't want him leaning away from you, basically. You want him just to tilt his head but sit up straight. So again, I'm going to cut across so that I can get a good look at half of his ear, or his earlobe showing at least. And if you want it even shorter, take a little at a time. If it's 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch is better than just taking a whole inch of it off at a time. This might be the longest haircut in his whole life, but at least you're not going to botch him. It's better to take a little off at a time because you can't put it back once it's gone. So basically, that's what we were going for. Now he's a little shorter and he can run his hair back this way and it's at the tip of his ear. Now there are some guys that don't like it that long, and I can go a little shorter on this side. Say you're starting out this long with a man's haircut. You can cut under and straight across if you want, to where you feel like the tip of his ear is up here. You could do it this way and cut off hair, and cut it in little points and angles and take off what you can. Anything that's sticking out of your comb. And basically it's considered a tapered haircut. And more of that is going to help show his ear area. And then of course this is long because that's still considered bang area. We're not going to go there yet. We're just trying to shape around his ear. So since we have the area right here by his ear and the back of his hair, we want that to blend. So we want to go back in and blend that to what we just cut. Take another little section, comb it forward. Little bitty cuts. And as long as when you're combing it forward and it looks like it's in a straight line, then you're doing really, really good. There's a little fringe left right there. So again, we're going to pick it up. Everything's going forward, so you see the thickest line of hair that's been cut, and trim it in. And sometimes there's just a very funny cowlick in the back. Don't feel bad to just cut it off. Now that's cleaner. That's combing it all forward. Combing it all forward, down. Every bit of that. You can run your fingers through it. And you can bring it back. And he has length on his hair here still, but we're not going to worry about that. We're cleaning up this diameter. I keep saying diameter, perimeter. The perimeter around his hairline. You get me. So here, we're going to pull down another section because if his hair was really that long and anything that you part and comb down to blend in with all of that, that should blend in. If it is longer than what we cleaned it up to be, then again, pull it down and trim it. So now we're going to do the front of his hair. Again, nice mustache. And this side of his hair, it could be done the same way on the other side. And after I do the front, I'll move to the trimmers and still work on this side of his hair since we've already cut that. So you'll want to comb a lot of his hair forward. Of course, his hair is all in his eyes. And we don't want to look like a bowl haircut. So if he combs his hair to the right, find his part and comb it that way. Oop. Make sure he's still. You don't have to push his head in his shoulders, but just keep his head where you need it so that he's not moving around. So a lot of this hair right here looks like it's a bob. We don't want that look, but we'll fix that in a second. So what we'll do is we're going to comb some forward just to get it out of our way. And we're going to go behind it and pull up a section. It doesn't have to be perfect. And we're going to cut, because if you remember how much we took off around his ears and the sides, do about a 1/2 inch at a time. Now you can pull this up and take off that hair that you just pulled out. That's supposed to be his bang area so that it's not too short. And trim that off. And do that again right here, because this will be basically your guideline again. And most guys are wearing it a little bit long. Some are still wearing it a little bit short and puffing it up in the front with wax. That all is still fine, but most men are getting their hair cut every 4-5 weeks. Some do 6 weeks. 6 weeks is usually somebody that wears it on the longer side, such as this man right here. So we're only going to be taking about 5 to 6 weeks worth of hair off, which is a little more than 1/4 inch, almost a 1/2 inch. And if you just pick up hair everywhere on the front, combing from the front towards the back and nipping off, keeping your hand straight across, you've cleaned up a lot of the stuff around his front. And then you can have him turn towards you. Not lean back. Sorry, my mannequin. I know y'all are laughing. So we're going to have him be still. I got to tighten this, I think, for a second. There. Now he's going to be really still. And we're going to do the same with like bangs for us, except we're standing in front of them cutting their hair. So we're going to comb it down and pick it up. And anything that is hanging under here is where we want to trim. And if you need to use his eyebrows, you could use his eyebrows, because on men, the shorter, it doesn't matter because a lot of them wear it back. I rarely see a male with bangs in the front. They usually wear it up and back, or with wax up and back, gel up and back, or they comb it over and it's still up and off their forehead. And you still go into it at an angle, just like you did the sides. So anything that I've now combed forward is pretty much, should look like a bang. But fortunately, most men on Styles, if he's a businessman that wears his hair slicked down, this side's not being cut, obviously, so I'm going to turn him more that way. Give him his part. And some guys have calyx in the front. So again, you find his part. And there you go. And I would not worry about a lot of this stuff back here. It's going to grow. But we're going to go back to this now that that whole hairline has been cut and trimmed, and show you how to go in a little shorter with trimmers. Some people have clippers, some people have trimmers. It doesn't matter what brand they are. They're cordless or they have a cord. They all work the same. So what we'll do is leave it about right there in that angle for y'all. Actually, I need it just a little more right there. So being that this side looks like this side, pretend, and we're at the end of the haircut. So remember when we picked up our comb and pulled it out and trimmed hair off? We're going to kind of be doing a little bit of the same thing, so we're blending now. Because this top part up here is still long, so we want this to blend with this length here. So the trick is holding it up, and if you see longer there, you're blending it in. You could hit a little at a time, which is totally fine. Again, a little off at a time is better than a lot. It doesn't have to be perfect. If this is too much for you to do, too worried about making it too short, again, make it a couple little cuts, comb it back down, push it back with your fingers. If you feel like it's laying right and you want to stop, that's a good time to stop. If you feel like you want it a little cleaner, then you can go in and hit him at his ear. You can do it sideways. And a lot of times with their ear, obviously on the mannequin it's flatter to its head, but if they're sticking out, go in with the comb, push the earlobe down, go in with the comb, and anything that's longer right there might have gotten tucked behind his ear by accident. So if you fold the earlobe down, not the earlobe, sorry, the top of his ear down, you'll be able to get that comb in there. And then you'll be able to trim off any little long pieces that are in the way. And another trick is combing it all forward and hitting it at his hairline this way, getting off any of the little bitty tiny hairs that you can.